So, Charlie and Nigel from Ultimate Cool, thanks very much for chatting to me tonight. My research team, which is basically me, I've done a shambolic job, so there's not much going on there. So,
That's all right.
just to point out in the corner, there's Jeff Dela Cruz. Now, as I remember it, and this might be totally wrong, so take a wild guess. I think wild guess is the way to go here. Were Jeff and Bev effectively, did they manage Garbage Head when you were Garbage Head all those years ago, or were they just big fans?
No, they absolutely did, without a shadow of a doubt. We did 2 tours of Germany. God, it was a long time ago, so remembering some of the details is definitely a little bit hazy. But no, Jeff and Bev, absolutely. I think they were our biggest fans, but also managed the band, which was just fabulous. And definitely, we went from playing very small pubs in sort of West and Mid Wales to playing slightly bigger pubs in West and Mid Wales, but then also playing a lot in Cardiff, and then obviously the German stuff and all that kind of things. And I think we did a few gigs outside of Wales in the UK, but I don't know if we ever did God, I just can't remember.
Yeah, we did a few in London, didn't we? I think we played,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, we did a few up there. That's right. Yeah, we did some. So yeah, it was great. So it was definitely, it was a good time. I think that one of my best memories from that moment is Jeff sleeping in the dog's bed at the bottom of the stairs after one of the gigs we did, I think in Llandovry, which was a great gig. I think there were about 200 or 300 people came that night, and it was kind of like this awesome event. And there was basically no room left in the house apart from the dog's bed at the bottom of the stairs. So no, Jeff and Beth were there 100% of the way, and it was that kind of time. So it was.
When was that, Charlie? What is it, in the 80s? Are we talking, or later?
Yeah, late 80s. I think it's about 1989 we first got together. Because I was playing in a band in London with Paul, who became our drummer later on. And I can't remember where the gig was. I think it was in Brentford. And Nige and Dan, who was the singer, came along to the gig, and that's how it all started, really, escalated from there. So. And
you're a guitarist then, I'm guessing, Charlie, is that right?
That's right, yeah.
And at that time, just to say to Jeff and Bev as well, because hopefully get them back in, you might want to go out and come back in, Jeff. We might be able to hear you then, if you want to try that. Give it a go. But at that time, you were all based. You were obviously all based in the West Wales area. Is that right? Yes.
Yeah,
I was. I don't think you were at the time, you, Nigel. Or you were.
No, I'm from Haverfordwest originally, and then as was Paul, our drummer.
Yeah.
And so Paul and I went to school together in Tasker Millwood, and then Paul has been in every single band I've ever been in. After a certain period of time, we've ended up sacking the drummer and calling Paul and say, because I'm a bass player, and I grew up with a world-class drummer. So I just am used to somebody's drumming just being absolutely unbelievable. And every time I'd be in a band, and after a period of time, I'd be like, you know what? It's like, I'm just missing that. And it just happened every single time. And this was no exception. We had a wonderful drummer who was great, actually, David, who was from the Carmarthen area. And Paul is just a sort of whole nother class. And so Dan and I moved them back down to West Wales to start Garbage Head. And the reason we moved there was basically we saw Charlie playing guitar, and we both went, oh my God, we need to start a band with that kind of guitar. So great. We moved all the way back down to West Wales, and just started Ultimate Cool, whatever, at that sort of time, in Carmarthen, and just started gigging and practicing and doing all that sort of stuff, which was fun.
So for the Garbage Head, I think you played Club Eva Bosch in one of those gigs. I think.
Yes, we did. Yes, I do remember that. Yeah,
I think we played there a few times actually.
I think so. I think
at least twice.
It was a good venue. It still is a really good venue, and it's where a lot of top bands play these days. Up and coming bands, or they play one-off gigs to a slightly more intimate crowd. But Garbage Head. So my memories of Garbage Head then were that. Mostly how tall Nigel was, and what great musicians you were, and the standard of musicianship. And so Jeff, he's currently in Tipperary. Nigel is currently in Los Angeles, and Charlie is currently in Carmarthen. So it's a nice mix, but technically it's proven to be a little bit of a challenge. However, I was earlier supposed to be in the meeting. I was driving up and down in the car, so it's all relatively good, really. So how did you originally? And we're going to get on to obviously the Ultimate Cool, and the reason we're having the conversation is because Jeff just out of the blue sent me a track. I thought that's great. I just really liked it straight away. I said, I wondered if you'd be up for an interview. So we'll come back to Ultimate Cool. But how did you, because Jeff and Bev would have been based in Cardiff then, how did you sort of originally cross paths, I wonder?
I do remember this.
No, I think it was
Upper
Cwmtwll. That was the.
Okay. How could I possibly forget Upper
What a great name for a
Yeah,
place.
exactly. So yeah, we were playing at a place called Taffy's Tash, and there was a band who we were, I guess, either supporting or on the same night as, or whatever it was. I think they were Jackknife Disciples, I think was the name of the band. Who were actually great.
Also,
yeah, right. And so they were with them, and they're a great band, had a really cool sound, some really good songs, and that's where we first met Jeff and Bev. I don't remember quite, I guess we stayed in touch, and I don't know. I think Jeff also did a German, so there was sort of like, I guess Cardiff at the time was twin cities with Stuttgart, maybe.
That's
or
right,
some
yeah,
sort of
still is,
connection like
yeah,
that.
it is, yeah.
That was it. And maybe,
Yeah.
I guess probably still is actually. So so there you go. So there was some sort of like, exchange thing where like a German band would come to Wales, Welsh band would go to Germany and do this kind of sort of dual tour thing. So I think Jackknife had done that, and then Jeff then sort of got us to do that as well with a band from Germany called October.
I remember.
And we did it twice.
It's coming back to me. It's coming back to me. Yeah.
It was awesome. So we went to Germany, to Stuttgart, and sort of did gigs over there. They came back to Wales, and we did that twice actually, where we went over there and then they came back. Both, I mean, just glorious memories from those tours. I mean, just fantastic. We had wonderful gigs over there, great gigs. And I remember they came and played at Trinity College Carmarthen, for example.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's, we kind of met Jeff there, and Bev, and then obviously sort of just developed then over the years as things kind of grew. So, but I remember Taffy's Tash, absolutely.
It's a shame that kind of thing. I don't know whether it's still going on, but I really like the idea of bands from different countries interconnecting and promoting each other, because it's just a really nice thing to do. I suppose Brexit and whatever has made all that a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, definitely.
Over the years, Charlie, by the way, firstly I'll ask you, Charlie, do you have any, because we can see Jeff and Bev on the screen there, so can you remember any stories, any adventures in your German tour?
Well, like some I can't repeat, but there was one actually. We were staying in this guy's house. Klaus, his name was Klaus, and I think his wife's name was Mouse. And they had this pet python, which me and Jeff were quite intrigued with. And one night we were sort of not provoking it, but sort of waving a hand over
As you do.
And that kind of the snake sort of lashed out and went for us. But in terms of music, I mean, it was just great, really. I mean, Jeff was such a strong character and so important to the band. He was a fifth band member, really.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear,
there we
can
go.
hear you. Yeah.
All the way from Tipperary.
No dogs going on at the moment?
Jesus, no. We're out buying houses over here in Tipperary, yeah.
I kind of felt it might go in this direction. Jeff, do you have any? We're going to get on to Ultimate Cool in a minute, but I mean, it's a lot of the same personnel. So we're talking about the team of songwriters and musicians, really, I suppose, above anything else. Any memories for you from the German tours with Garbage Head?
Oh, the German tours, yeah. A lot of the tours to me have all melded into one. One classic moment was Dan, when he promoted me to tour manager at a gig at a place called Muckmühle. It's quite a difficult word to pronounce. Muckmühle.
Sounds like it is, yeah.
He came through the door from the back and he said, Jeff, can you do us a favour as tour manager? Can you speak to this German guy? He's not very happy. What Dan had done was reverse the tour van into his shop windows. It was a shoe shop, and he put a
Oh
crack
yeah.
from the top right across of the glass to the bottom. And I've got this guy speaking to me, like ranting away in German. And I'm trying to carry it out. It's okay, we are insured. We are insured. I don't think he understood any English. I knew no German. And this went on for about 10 minutes, and Dan had scuttled away and left me to deal with it. I'm not sure. Was it ever sorted?
I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. All I know is that, yeah, Dan reversed the van into this shop, and it was just one of those huge panes of glass, and the whole thing was just like there was a crack right down the whole middle of the thing. So I have absolutely no idea what ended up happening with that. Yeah. So yes.
And it was called I'm not sure, I think it was it Jack, it could have been yourself, the Sex and Drugs and Helmet Cold Tour.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And this cop, the police were not happy with it.
That's
and we
right.
were trying to play on words. I can promise you, it was great. Yeah, great days.
Sex and Drugs and Helmut Kohl. That's right. Yeah. There you go. So early 90s. Yes.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
With Ultimate Cool, right? The most recent kind of vehicle, I suppose. Is it essentially the same? Is it essentially the same people?
It is essentially the same people to a point. I mean, it's myself and Nigel. Dan was the singer, but he wasn't available for this particular project. So Nigel's done a fantastic job in doing all the vocals. He's done the drum programming, played the bass. So really, it's just myself and Nigel, but with the omission of Dan and obviously Paul. I think Paul's living in Australia at the moment, Nigel, is that right?
Wow.
He is, yes, yeah, absolutely. The interesting thing with Paul, though, of course, and the beautiful thing about it was that we had all of these like demos, rough cuts, things. I made Charlie dig out all these like old tapes and things, even gig tapes. So then, I mean, I've worked with Paul, like I said, since we were in school together. So since we were like 13 years old. And I've played in 4 different bands with Paul. So whenever I think of a drummer in my head, I hear Paul, right? It's just that's what a drummer sounds like to me. So for me, programming the drums was very much, and especially because I had all the source material to kind of listen to, like, oh, here's how he played it at this gig. So I would literally just kind of recreate the drum tracks based upon kind of what he played. So I kind of think of it a little bit like he was there in spirit, even though he wasn't actually, because he hasn't played apparently in 15 years. He just hasn't picked up a set of drumsticks. So it's just not something because we've tried to get him involved in a couple of different projects we've had in recent years, but he's not been up for playing. But I think, we've been able to capture, it's more than just like, oh, there's this sort of drum, there's something that's very definitely, there's a style that's there because of kind of the material that we had to sort of work with. And then actually the original name of the band of Garbage was The Ultimate Cool. So we kind of just went back to that original name. So there are certainly people that will remember. And in fact, when we certainly met Bev and Jeff for the first time, I think we would have been called The Ultimate Cool when they met us at Taffy's Tash.
I wonder why I changed it, because it's such a great name.
Who knows?
If you're the ultimate cool, no one else can be more cool than you ever.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't. It's like the decisions one makes at different times. It's hard to necessarily.
I think the music was getting slightly more aggressive and high energy as we progressed.
Yeah, I think that's probably a thing of it. That's a good point, actually. Yeah, I mean, our sort of, the sound was definitely becoming heavier, so I think we were maybe looking for some sort of shift in that direction. So, but then this album then is sort of a recreation of kind of a lot of different things from both of those sort of sounds. So you've got stuff like Strange Summer's Dream and the Goblin Song, which are definitely, I wouldn't say they're light, but they're not as heavy as, say, Self-Destruction or something like that, which is a little bit more like straight up sort of, I don't even, what do you call it? Classic punk, metal, rock, prog. I don't know, some sort of mixture of all of that sort of stuff. I don't even know what, but basically it's rock. We're always a rock band fundamentally at the heart of it. So it's some sort of you know, I see Jeff has now got his hand up in the meeting as if he's sort of like attending some sort of corporate event. Oh, he's put his hand down now that I mentioned it. I don't know. For the first time he's put his hand up to speak for, you know.
Do you want to try and speak, Jeff?
No, I guess. Oh, there you go.
I mean, it's interesting you're talking about there. I'll ask Charlie this one, but you know, Nigel naming so many different kind of genres and subgenres of music. You know, firstly, how close did you ever get, I suppose, to, you know, breaking through and getting some, you know, a deal or attention? And how important do you think it is to have a musical identity or not, Charlie? You know, to be, you know, do you need to be able to be pigeonholed or not? You know.
Well, I think certainly the way we were thinking at the time, we were obviously commercial success would have been excellent, but you know, it was more about the integrity of the music. We really did want to, you know, whatever came to us is what came out. You know, there was nothing contrived about it at all. You know,
Right.
we'd play in a room, we'd jam something out, and that's what we rolled with. You know, I don't think there was any sort of contrived plan. Otherwise, we wouldn't have written 8-9 minute long songs like the But and I'm glad we did that, because I think that shows in the music. You know, it's you know, people are saying now, you know, so far ahead of its time, you know, and I think they're right in some respects. And that's, you know, I know I'm a bit biased because I was in the band, but it does. It's really hard to pigeonhole it. I think
What would you say it is then, Charlie? What if you had to say it was a genre? What would you say it was?
It's very difficult to say. I mean, there's definitely rock elements, as Nigel said, but there's almost a bit of a prog element as well, I have to be honest, because you know, some of the music was quite complicated, but then there was quite a sort of organic simplicity to it as well in some instances. You know, we had this kind of almost a folky sort of side to our music, even though we didn't play instruments. There was definitely that sort of folky feel to some of it, you know, which you know, which was great. I mean, I think that was because of our surroundings as well. You know, we were practicing Cali, which is near Llandilo, which is an amazing setting. You've got this lake and this old ruined abbey, and it was just great. You know? And I think that did actually feed the music a bit.
It's a shame you didn't get the hippie dippy videos, because that would have been, you know, looking back now, it'd been brilliant. You know, the castles and you know, the mists.
What would have been really fun?
Stuff, you know?
Yeah,
absolutely. And what would have been really fun would have been live video of some of the gigs, because I think one of the things that we certainly did have in abundance, I mean, live, definitely. I mean, we were a pretty tight band. I mean, effectively you had the sort of backline of myself, Charlie, and Paul, which certainly is by far the best sort of like backline, if you like, I've ever played with. And then you had Dan at the front, and Dan was just a great charismatic performer. I mean, he was fantastic. He's just one of those people who's just I've had the pleasure of working with a few in my life of sort of really great frontmen, and he was one of them who, you know, yes, he played guitar, yes, he sang, but really his instrument was the audience, right? And you get, it's so much fun to be on stage with somebody like that. And that is a wonderful thing to be behind, because then it allows you as the sort of, you know, the musicians, if you like, in the band, to just really kind of focus on getting that sound to be punchy, to be tight, to be explosive, and to do all that. And I think we certainly did that in a big way. And that was a lot of fun to be able to sort of to make music that felt that solid. You know, it was very cool.
In terms of ultimate cool, I mean, you're in Los Angeles. One of the guys we think is in Australia, one's in West Wales. How's it working at the moment, Nigel? You just kind of sending stuff back and forth to each other and focusing on the production side of stuff, yeah?
You know what, it actually works really easily. So Charlie and I also collaborated on an earlier project with an old high school band we did an album with called Mirror Image, where Charlie played the lead guitar solos on that. So that kind of basically the pandemic threw up a lot of time, especially early on. It's kind of like, okay, what the heck are we going to do now? So we kind of, I did one album with the sort of high school band, which Paul was also in. So again, I recreated the drums for that for the same sort of in the same way, right? And And yeah, it's just, I send a backing track, Charlie will play over the top of it, then he'll send everything back here, and then we just sort of work on it, mix it together, send mixes, listen to them, go, you know what if we did this, what if we did that kind of stuff. And it actually works very well. You asked a really great question about like how close did we get to being signed and that kind of thing, and about band identity. The band identity is interesting. We definitely, I think, struggled a little bit because we kind of, played quite a range of stuff, or didn't have an easy pigeonhole, which can be helpful. But obviously that shortens the shelf life, right? If something is easy to describe, that might be great in terms of like some initial thing, but then ultimately it's going to shorten it. The bigger problem we had by far was that, back in those days, recording well was really expensive. It's hard to record, whereas now it's so much easier to go from, we got this idea, we've got this thing we'd like to do, and to actually make that happen and actually make it sound pretty close to what you'd want it to do is a whole lot easier. And I think that was one of the big challenges there. It took so long for us to go from, wow, we're playing together and this sounds really amazing, to actually having something recorded that in any way reflected what we were doing. I've been in studios where it's $1,000 a day. You're not going to spend a heck of a lot of time in that studio, even if a record company's paying for it, right?
No,
It's a lot of time. Whereas now we can take the time, go back and forth and go, you know what, that solo is good, but I'm sure you could play it better. And it's like, yeah, okay. It's a cheap decision to make, right? As opposed to, if we want to redo it, we got to do all that. So it makes a huge difference in terms of being able to capture what you want to capture. And I think with Garbage Head, we got close. But I think, we definitely were not doing something that was musically super popular at the time. The beautiful thing about recording now is that we can do that. We can record it exactly the way we want to do it, and then we can just put it out, and it's fabulous. There's nobody sort of saying, well, is this the single or is this the single? That conversation does not come up. It's like, we just made an album, boom, put it out, and if you like it, you like it, and that's awesome.
There's an obvious question, right? Will you ever play together again, physically? And does that even matter?
I'd love to play together again if the opportunity ever came out.
Absolutely.
Whether it's practical to do that, I'm not sure. I mean, I certainly wouldn't rule out the chance of that happening. Speaking personally, obviously I can't speak for the others. As I said, I've been in touch with Dan again, the original singer, so possibly. And if Nigel's back in sunny Wales one day, maybe we could coordinate something. I don't know. But
well, you say you write for other people, so what do you actually do then, Nigel? What kind of stuff? What other stuff do you write?
Well, the band obviously that I ended up having after Garbage Head was a band called Electricity that actually was relatively successful and did sign major record deals and had some top 20 hits. Oh, there's the Tipperary contingent.
Coming at us from all angles.
So, and actually we've got another album coming out with that later on this year as well. That's much more of a, I will actually write a song with a guitar and sing and so forth and go, okay, this is the song. And then obviously people will play around that, but that's very much a sort of songwriting type of experience. They're both very awesome sort of expressions, right? They're both wonderful musical expressions, but they're very different. And that's kind of a fun thing, right? So we've got Electricity over here, which is very much the songwriting driven thing. And then this whole Garbage Head Ultimate Pool thing, which is really just 3-minute guitar solos. There's an 8.5-minute song. There's like about goblins, for God's sake. It's like, you don't get that by sitting down with an acoustic guitar. It's like, no, that's a whole different vibe. But we did actually, Charlie joined us. We did a gig last time I came to the UK, and Jeff and Bev came down as well. We were in Haverfordwest, and I think it was 2018, before the pandemic. And we did do myself, one of the other guitarists from Electricity, who now lives in Haverfordwest but isn't from there, bizarrely, and Charlie, and then we got another guy on drums who lived locally, and even Ali came down actually from London, and we did do a gig for a night in one of the pubs down there, so that was kind of fun. So we did have that. with Electricity, obviously we'll have to see how this album does, this next one, and we'll see if that feeds into anything. There's obviously quite a big Britpop revival thing happening in the UK at the moment. There's a lot of radio play and stuff like that, which is cool. So we'll see.
I mean, I don't know, some sort of small scale festival where, you know, you get the right kind of people on site, then you're kind of halfway there, really, as an experience.
Absolutely.
Actually, Charlie, because you live in Carmarthen, you know, so it's one of the larger towns in West Wales. My impression is, maybe I'm totally wrong, that if something's sort of happening, if there's some sort of live music event going on, you know, the people will kind of come. You know, you can kind of have a get together maybe more easily than you might get somewhere like Cardiff, or am I totally wrong?
Definitely. In fact, that was the case when the Ultimate Cool started, actually, because some of the gigs we did around here, I mean, there was a place, for example, called the Paxton's Inn, which it's in a place called Llanarthney, which is literally in the middle of nowhere, really. But, you know, we started playing there, and within about 3 months, there was literally hundreds and hundreds of people traveling from town on a Sunday evening to watch the band play, and from us playing there, obviously other bands started playing, and he did actually have a mini festival there at one point. So, you know, it does seem to sort of, I don't know, there's always find in rural areas that, you know, music does generate a lot of enthusiasm, you know, whereas you know, I guess in cities sometimes, you know, you got your venues, you go
take it for granted a bit, I think, in cities.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's exactly it. I think you know, it's more sort of cherished when it's, you know, if it's a more of a scarce commodity within a rural environment. So I think people are a bit more willing to sort of go out of their way to go to a gig, you know.
Well, the last time I was in Cardigan, I was just thinking it was last July or something. That was a really lovely summer's evening, and I went away for a few days with my daughter. And I can't remember the name of the pub now. There's a pub right down on by the river, and there was some live music going on. And I don't speak Welsh, okay, but they were a Welsh language act.
Yeah,
and it was just absolutely fantastic. Just sitting there listening to some musicians singing, even though I couldn't understand a word of it. And it, you know, it drew a big crowd. It was just fantastic. It was just a brilliant thing, you know. So I think you're right. I think you might be onto ones there, maybe, Charlie. That you might be able to, you know, find a way of making something happen whilst Nigel's in the area, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm certainly up to doing that.
For me, playing the songs is obviously a big thing, but we would definitely need a drummer. Certainly, this music would not work without that energy, you know.
So where does Paul live? This is the thing. Where does he live?
He's somewhere outside of Sydney. I don't know exactly where.
Right, so it's a bit of a drag then, isn't it, really?
Bit of a trek, yeah, definitely. It's a long one.
I was hoping you were going to say, I forgot you said that, somewhere in West Wales, you know. Wouldn't they be fantastic?
Yes.
You know, let's get this band on the road, you know.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a road, isn't it, really? Actually, in this country and in this part of the world, unless you did, I never managed to achieve to get away from latency, to be able to actually play with other musicians simultaneously.
Oh, no.
If only that was possible, maybe that would be, you know, you could capture that as a live thing, couldn't you? It wouldn't matter where you were, you know? Yeah.
There is supposedly some technology that exists that sort of makes that happen, but I still have, I don't know. I haven't seen that or experienced it, or it certainly needs to be good enough in a really meaningful sense, because any degree of latency, as in a delay between you hitting the strings and actually hearing the sound, you know, even when people say, well, it's only 8 milliseconds, you shouldn't be able to hear that. I don't know. It's not the same. It really isn't. So we don't have that problem when we're recording. And obviously, you know, we can set things up in certain ways that you don't have that problem when you're actually just recording a track. But if you were actually to try and do something live together, virtually, maybe the technology is getting close to be able to do that, but I don't know. I haven't experienced that yet. Well, it would be feasible for everybody, obviously, but apart from Jeff in Tipperary, where that's just obviously not going to be happening. No matter what happens, there's going to be a latency and a delay issue with that, no matter what happens there.
Well, Jeff has a natural kind of inbuilt latency anyway, doesn't he?
So, that's probably correct.
Really doesn't help, you know. But no, it's a real shame we couldn't we can get Jeff's audio because it would have been fairly
Yeah,
funny.
it would be great.
Fairly
Hello,
funny
can you hear me?
Hey, there he is.
Oh, there we go.
Hey,
There he is.
it's the cows. Hello there.
Hello there.
Jeff,
Hello.
you've
New
heard-
destination. Here we go. Tipperary here calling. Tipperary calling.
you've heard.
I've loved it. I love listening anyway.
Oh, great! Yeah, well, tell us about what you know. What you want to react to, Jeff, from what you've heard.
What about the actually? I love the idea of live gigs. Yeah.
Yeah,
Bound
there
to
you
get a
go.
drummer. You'll get a drummer. I love that idea. I'll find a drummer over here.
Jeff, since I can hear you, which is a bonus, yeah.
Yeah, obviously.
Just to say, you know, with these guys, without embarrassing them, or even better if we do embarrass them, you know, what was it about them that you and Bev kind of really, you know, what you love about these guys?
It was that moment. It was Taffy's Tash. We turned up with Jackknife. Jackknife were basically beginning to split. We knew it, and it was a shame. They got close to signing to Nude Records, and it had fallen through. And it was the thing. Their shelf life was over, really. But we agreed to do they'd agreed to do this gig. It was a bikers gig, wasn't it?
Oh, that's right.
Taffy's Tash.
Yeah, it was. I think it was.
And as soon as the Ultimate Cool then opened, we've just Bev and I were just blown away. You knew that this was a band. You know, Jackknife were a band, but there was something about these lads that were it was just there, you know. And as Nigel said earlier, I was starting to do these German tours, you know, basically ripping off Cardiff City Council for money to go out to Germany, you know. And,
Some could say that. Some could say
I
that.
used to fly out. The band used to drive. But it just worked, you know, because you knew you had such a good band behind you, and there was something about it. I was convinced they'd be signed.
Hey guys.
Hi, Bev.
There she is.
Hiya.
There she is. That's
So
nice.
the
Look at that.
interference has mostly been cows because we're in the middle of a field of cows.
Yeah, really.
Oh, well done. Bev, I'll ask you since you're on camera now. What are these guys? You know, where would you put them? What kind of band are they? You know, what kind of outfit are they?
I like them because I've always liked what I call a dirty sound. I like a guitar that speaks to you because it's really sort of dirty and guttural. And when we saw them, they were so guitar led. But of course, you can't have a good guitar without a decent drummer. That's true. And it was that core. The core of them was so good. You know, we were hooked straight away.
Yeah,
That and that skinny bloke playing the bass with all the hair. He was lovely.
he couldn't make it today.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
He went on forever.
Yeah, he went on.
Have you got any particular memories, Bev, of I mean, maybe in Germany? Because in Germany, of course, you know, they'd never seen them before. They didn't know anything about them. They didn't know what to get.
I think the Germans appreciate a good guitar. They do. They
Yeah, Charlie.
Hey.
tend to go for soft rock. They like the American soft rock, but when a proper guitar comes along, the reaction is amazing. With all the bands we've taken over, the British bands are very good at doing guitar work, and it appeals to the Germans. So the link was very good. It was proven even better when they were playing Self-Destruction and Danny fell off the stage and broke his leg.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
God.
The total self-destruction. I mean, he was living
Yeah.
the dream.
Oh, I'd forgotten about that as
Did
well.
he complete the gig? I mean, that's the thing, you know.
That's one of those great stories, really, Nigel. Isn't it? You know,
Oh,
He
I
did the
think
gig.
so.
He did the
Oh
gig.
yeah.
These sort of things. It's rock and
wonderful
roll.
story.
you know
Yes,
what I mean?
proper rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
It's quite nice that you're both together now, and we can see you and hear you. I suppose if I give Charlie and Nigel the opportunity to maybe just, you know, respond back really about Jeff and Bev, because I always really admired their passion for music, and if they get behind a band, then you know they're a pretty good team to have on board, aren't they, Nash?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, you know, as a band, obviously, it's not that you're looking for validation, but ultimately you really do need it, right? Because you're doing this thing and you really have no idea. Is it good? Does anybody like it? I have no idea. Some people say they like it, but it's when you see people with genuine passion for what you do respond in a way that makes you realize, oh my God, there's something really like worthwhile going for here. And when Bev and Jeff got involved with us, there was just such a you know, from both of them, this just energy that kind of really keeps you going, right? Because sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's difficult. You get like you said, you send off things, you get rejected from this, that, and the other, and it's that core energy then from people like Jeff and Beth, and from them specifically in this instance, that kind of drives you forward and makes you go, oh no, this is something worth doing. And they have been long time fans and supporters of everything we've done, which has been so awesome. So for example, when we did go back and I was there a few years ago, and you guys drove all the way down just to see one gig in a tiny pub in Haverfordwest. Nothing sums it up more than that about, like, you know, it was just so awesome. I mean, it's just wonderful to see again. But yeah, I mean, that at the end of the day, it's about passion, isn't it? It's like we're doing this from a musical perspective because we just passionately love and believe in the music. So then through that journey, the beautiful thing is that through that journey, you meet other people who are equally, regardless of whether they play the music or not, in whatever way, they're also inspired by that passion and that music. And you end up connecting with people who just have this love of music. So, you know, it's like, without getting too teary-eyed about it, but I could at a drop of a hat. You know, it's like,
Oh, go
those are
on.
the people that end up being very special to you, because it's like you connect on this sort of way about the music and about the passion and about the things that you care about.
Charlie, do you got anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, I echo what Nigel said. You know, I mean, they were such a lovely couple, and from the minute we first met them, you know, they were so easygoing, and they were so supportive of the band. Everything we did, it just felt like a perfect team.
Yeah,
you know, and it was really special.
I never realised.
Thanks, Charlie.
Look, guys, it was your music, you know. You guys getting together and putting those songs together.
Oh, the memories.
God, has that helped me recently? You know what I mean? That really helped me. What have we been like listening? Sat on a little chalet down at Penarth, Lavernock. The memories, the feelings. Oh yeah. God, I tell you what, you know, I haven't been that well, but that has got me right back up there, guys. Honestly, really got right back up there.
We were sat there listening to it saying, well, any one of these tracks could be on a John Wick film. I mean, it was just perfect at killing people, basically.
There's
Holiday would definitely be pretty
the soundtrack for Wick 4, you know what I mean? There'd be some crackers on there, perfect.
I think you should release that on the album, and the catchphrase is Dela Cruz, perfect for killing people. Buy it now.
Tagline for the record.
I think we used to call you Papa de la Cruz, didn't we, Jeff?
Papa de la Cruz, yeah.
Wasn't that
I love that, yeah. Papa de la Cruz, that morphed into Papa DLC.
That's right.
I did promotions for a while down the club.
Right.
With that Johnson bloke.
Papa DLC, Anstey, yeah, you know, it would be Papa DLC promotions. Yeah. I remember famously turning down, what's her name, from Keris from Catatonia.
Oops.
He wanted a gig, and I said, "Well, yeah, I'll think about it." Like, and I said, "I can't."
I think he turned down the House Martins as well, didn't you, Jeff?
Oh yeah, House Martins. Yeah.
Anyone with talent was straight out the door, you know.
I booked Supergrass for 80 quid, and to put on one of my Papa DLCs, but I decided Wednesday nights wasn't going that well, so I gave up, and I pulled them.
Of the current stuff, of the new stuff with Ultimate Cool, is there a song that's standing out for you that you like for some reason? I wonder what that might be.
Machine Gun Holiday. Oh, it goes
Big
on that
one.
really. That's the John Wick bit, Machine Gun Holiday.
Yes,
it
yeah,
goes
yeah,
through that
yeah. No,
lovely
that's
story in
the
the
riff.
steering wheel chorus, and then back into Machine Gun
Oh
Holiday.
yeah, yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
Whoa, this is weird. You know what I mean? But it's brilliant. You know.
Yes, we've listened to it quite a lot, actually.
Yes.
There you go.
We got everything.
Just to bring things to a close, a couple of things I wanted to ask you. What about videos? You know, you're doing all this stuff. Are there plans to put some video content together at all?
Yeah, I think we definitely going to do a video for self-destruction, and we'll sort of start there and see how that goes. So, you know, now the track's done, that's great. We'll make a video of that, and I think we'll do something. Maybe it'll be a mixture of some performance and mixture of some other stuff that will kind of give the track some energy and stuff. So yeah, no, I think we'll definitely do some videos. We got some plans in the works. How
Got some
about that? So,
Excellent.
I mean, obviously, the challenge for Jeff and Bev now is to somehow or other make this gig happen. But you know, it's in July, so you haven't got that long. So just leave that one with you. But Charlie, if people want to hear more of your stuff, the Ultimate Cool is there somewhere they can go to and get to it?
Well, it's on all the streaming services. It's on Spotify, Apple. I think it's on Amazon as well. Is it, Nige?
Yes,
yeah,
it
it
is on
should be
Amazon.
on all those things.
Well,
Thank
I've had to rejoin Spotify to listen to this.
Yeah, right.
£9.99 a month, 3 months free trial. Man, I'll be getting rid of it then. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you know we'll maybe leave it there because that conversation could run for some time, couldn't it? Really.
Oh, yeah. And frequently does.
Anyway, I'm really glad, personally, because knowing Jeff and Bev really well, I'm really glad in the end we could see and hear you simultaneously and put you all together, which was really nice.
Yeah.
And thanks for setting it up. And as soon as I've done the edit and edited out all the hours of weird noises and stuff from Jeff and Bev, I'll get it sorted out.
I don't know what the hell's going on there.
Anyway.
really weird.
Sorry about that, Steve.
Thanks a lot, guys. Anyway, brilliant. Hopefully, I really hope you managed to get something together. It'd be great. Really good.
Oh,
That would
thank
be
you.
fantastic.
Really appreciate this.
Cheers, guys.
Awesome.
All the best.
Lovely.
Bye.
Thanks everybody. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Steve.
Look after yourselves.
Cheers.
See you all.